Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 270 of TDI. This is Dr. O on the horn to start per usual. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, my best friend, and the world between worlds aficionado, Ricky Flex. How pumped are you to talk about part 4 of Ahsoka?
I'm very pumped, but I might be more pumped about something else, Dr. O.
Ooh.
And I know last pod I was a little down. I wasn't myself. But you know what? I found my wallet. I found my wallet. And before I canceled anything, I then we got this episode. It was a great start of the week for me.
Okay. So I thought you were going to say this is first of all, this is spoilers for part 4 of Ahsoka. We're talking about all the nitty-gritty details here. We already previewed the world between worlds here, but I thought you were going to say you're so happy because we had the return of Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, this episode, Ricky Flex. And not only did I think you were going to say that's the reason you were excited, but also we are featuring the return of our Lucasfilm correspondent, Johnny Sims, coming back just like Anakin for this Ahsoka reaction episode. Welcome back, Johnny Sims. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me back, boys. I actually have, I told Rick that I would have a surprise for this episode. So I've been in the lab for the last couple of weeks. Going into this show, I didn't realize how heavily it was going to, lean on knowing these Rebels characters. And everyone I know that had watched Rebels absolutely loved the first 2 episodes, loved the first 3 episodes, said that it reminded them of Rebels. So in the last 2 weeks, I have grinded through the first 3 out of 4 seasons of Rebels. I've watched about 52 episodes of Star Wars Rebels in the last 3 weeks.
You might as well be a Jedi at this point. An absolute hero, a legend. And I can't say I crushed 3 seasons, but I will say this episode reignited my passion for Star Wars a little bit. After I watched this last night, I was like, man, I don't want this to end. Fired up the Empire Strikes Back, and I'm like, I got to keep this train rolling. But yeah, I just felt like, although there still was a lot of background necessary, or at least for the full enjoyment of the episode, to really take in that world between worlds moment and to understand the Sabine and Ezra connection, you have to have seen Rebels to fully appreciate it. I was still jacked up after seeing this. This was by far my favorite episode of this season. Where does it rank for you, Johnny Sims?
This episode was better than the first 3 entirely combined. So since I dedicated all my free time to watching Rebels, I didn't even watch episodes 3 and 4 until about 7 p.m. tonight. I watched them back to back leading up to this. And after episode 3, I texted my buddy, and I was like, episode 3 was terrible. I hope episode 4 is better. And it blew away any expectations that I had. It blew we're in a whole different ball game here now, boys.
Ricky Flex, what did it live up to your expectations? I know you liked episode 3 more than Johnny Sims and I think.
Yeah, definitely. I still didn't love it, but I did like it. It clearly was a filler episode. I think it was a filler episode if I ever saw one. This, again, amazing. Just to keep going with what the guy said. This is definitely a top 5 episode in the Star Wars show realm, I would say. Out of the Mandalorians, Book of Boba Fett, Andor, this is probably around number 5 for me. Awesome episode. Blew away my expectations for episode 4. And that's even if we didn't get the Anakin little cameo at the end. I thought it was a great episode even before that. So that was just a cherry on top, something that we can look forward to next week. But can't wait to talk to you guys about this episode because I loved everything about it.
I agree with you, Ricky. I have this up there. There's 3 episodes of Andor that really stick out to me. It's the heist episode with our guy from the Bear, goddammit, cousin.
Ebon Moss
Backrack, the prison break, and then the finale of Andor. Those 3 episodes, then the finale for Mandalorian season 2, and then this episode. To me, that's your 5 best pieces of Star Wars television that Disney has ever put out. This one felt so Star Wars. And you could say it's because of the lightsaber battles. You have the Mandalorian mixed with the lightsaber battles. You have the little kid saying he's got a bad feeling. You got the inner conflict of the young Padawan that we've seen in the prequel trilogy and even with Skywalker in the original trilogy. So to me, this and the obviously the choreography and then like the one-on-one dialogue that we get between the Dark Jedi and the Jedi, I just thought this felt like pure Star Wars compared to most projects that we see in the Star Wars TV realm and some of the experimental stuff. And it feels a little bit more new wave than classics Lucasfilm. Did you get the same feeling there, Johnny Sims?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It felt like the perfect blend of like new age Star Wars with a lot of the best elements from the classic stuff. And now that I have watched Rebels, I will say, I think if I were to list out my top 5, I honestly think I would have a couple episodes from Rebels in there because there were so many. There were moments where I almost cried during an animated TV show. That's how good this show is. A show that I watched in 2 weeks, I didn't have like built up emotional connection to. But I'm glad that I got that because to me, I think this episode, like you're saying, would be amazing without even seeing Rebels. But having those added layers of understanding of these characters takes it just even another level.
And I think the writing of this episode was pretty damn good. Just like within like a bottle within itself. Like just having that beginning where Ahsoka's asking Sabine, like, can I trust you? And then you have that pivotal moment where she hands the map back to Baylan's skull and she's doing it. And after that earlier, it sets that little seed where Ahsoka says you have to get over personal feelings, do what's for the greater good. Sabine's like, how do you make those decisions? She's like, I just have to. I know my duties as a Jedi. And she's not meant to be a Jedi. She doesn't know what that duty is. Like, she doesn't understand the magnitude of the situation. She just wants to go see Ezra again. I kept on thinking of, and we see Anakin at the end here. I kept thinking about Anakin wanting to save Padme in episode 3, making that personal decision over, right, the greater cause for, right, the Republic. So for me, I just kept making those connections. That also gave it that old school Star Wars feel, Ricky Flex, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised you watched episode 5 after this. I would have fired up episode 3.
I definitely. Anakin looked just, dude. Honestly, like the de-aging, it didn't look bad at all. I thought he's still got the best lettuce in all the galaxy.
Yeah, I was surprised with the de-aging because, like in Obi-Wan, like you get him, but he's not de-aged, and he's clearly. I don't know. I didn't think they had to do it, but he didn't look that bad. He really didn't.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, and he's only 42. Hayden Christensen, and crazy. I don't know if we want to jump into the World Between Worlds yet, because that was obviously the last scene of this episode. I just want to talk about the sequences here, the action sequences too, because the lightsaber battles, I thought the setting was amazing. They felt heavy. They felt important. The Baylan Skull versus Ahsoka was good, but I thought the dual lightsaber scene between Merrick and Ahsoka and Shin and Sabine, I love that moment more. I thought the choreography was on point. You get the rematch of Sabine and Shin. And then you have Merrick kind of going out like a bitch. You know, that kind of disappointed me a little bit.
Flipped away.
We also have like what's it called? Ahsoka just using one lightsaber. Okay. I don't know if there's a significance there that you guys might know about, but I thought there was just really heavy lightsaber, and we haven't got that in many of the TV episodes, right, so far for Star Wars. Guys, any thoughts on like those sequences? I just thought it was good, and with the dialogue going, it wasn't just pure action. It felt like it was like good versus evil. It truly felt like that was happening here.
Yeah, I'll definitely say Merrick is not Ezra. That is not true. Definitely, like I will say, watching this episode, a lot of Avengers Thanos like references here throughout the episode. Like Merrick dying, like kind of like the dust blipped away a little bit there.
Ooh, yeah.
That's just what I thought. Also, like double lightsaber
in the forest.
Yeah, in the forest. Yeah, and then also in the forest, with the lightsaber duel, I did think of Force Awakens. I did. But I do again. I was critical in the first couple episodes with the lightsaber battles. These looked so much better, and
yeah.
They did. And we have such high expectations for lightsaber battles, not only because it's Star Wars, Jedi, that's the main draw here, right? Main entertainment factor, but because also new technology, new wave. The sequel trilogy was so good at the lightsaber battles. It's like we gotten such great sequences with this. This is the level that we expect every time a freaking lightsaber is pulled out. And this time, like, it's still not as good as the sequel trilogy, but it's still good. It's better than what we've seen recently. You don't, Doctor, don't you dare. Don't dare.
The choreography of these, I think, are better than the sequel trilogy. It's better than watching these people just angrily run at each other. Like this one, at least you have more of like the samurai type with the action poses beforehand, staring each other down. And even Balin's skull, like, you know, Ray Stevenson can't move as well or could not move as well. All right. RIP to a legend. I thought he was great this episode. It just felt more intense, I think, like in terms of like it was better choreographed. I thought they were doing better things and cooler things with the lightsaber itself rather than Rey just like picking it up and just slashing at Kylo Ren. Like it wasn't I just thought the choreography wasn't good in the sequel trilogy.
Prequels.
Oh, prequels. No. I thought you said sequel trilogy.
I know, that's my bad. I meant the prequels.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah, you're getting us riled up there for a moment.
Ricky, I'm not stepping on toes here. I'm not stepping on this. I'm not stepping on the prequel trilogy. I just had to set the record straight. This was better, even for a TV show, than the sequel trilogy.
Yes, I meant to say prequel. That's on me. Hand up. That's on me.
And I did want, and I'll throw it to Johnny Sims in a sec, but the Merrick dude, I know we were running away with theories and stuff about whether this is Ezra or not. I had no idea. I thought Merrick was like a character beneath the mask from Rebels. I didn't know, like, no, Merrick is just this dude who wears this Inquisitor type figure. Like, am I wrong about that? Is he always been an Inquisitor type guy?
So unless he's in season 4, he wasn't in Rebels. And what people are saying online is they think it's possible that he was a former Inquisitor that was brought back to life by what's her name?
Morgan Espeth?
Yeah, by Morgan, because she's the Night Sister, as we've learned, and they were known for, that kind of dead magic resurrecting people. Yeah, so that was kind of why they had that fading away sequence like that.
So what I've been leaning on, I know you've been crushing Rebels. You've been doing like the Lord's work there, right? But
yeah.
I have been using this source called Wikipedia. Have you guys heard of Wikipedia?
Of course.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like I looked that up right after this episode. Learn more about Merrick. Learn more about the world between worlds. I watched a couple of YouTube videos, but that's just an excellent resource. I highly recommend it. If you guys have any questions, if you're not caught up on Rebels and you're watching Ahsoka, makes your life a little bit easier. Okay. Where do you want to go next? I think we should talk about Sabine. Sabine making this turn, right, where she's telling Ahsoka she could be trusted, then handing over this map to a Balin skull. Okay, what do you guys think about that moment, Johnny Sims? Any thoughts on Sabine? Did you really feel like she had that connection with Ezra? It's that much closer than her Jedi Master Ahsoka.
Absolutely, and as we see at the beginning of the show, there was some sort of falling out between Ahsoka and Sabine that occurred between the end of Rebels and this timeline. But Ezra and Sabine were pretty much like brother and sister. They were always trying to get each other out of these sticky situations. And I do think it was a bit of a moment of weakness when she handed over the map. But at the same time, I feel like there was a part of her that was thinking, what would Ezra do in this situation if the roles were reversed? I know that he would be willing to make this risk to try and rescue me as well. So.
That's a good way of looking at it too, because I didn't sense I know I made the parallel to Anakin in episode 3, but when Anakin makes the turn, there's no looking back. There's no looking back. He's like choking out Padme. You're like, oh, it's over. But here it's like Sabine, she's not, because I think Balin Skull is almost like assuming that she is now his Padawan as a Dark Jedi. It just kind of feels like that was the vibe he was looking for, but I don't think it's reciprocal. I don't think she feels that way. She's just willing to do whatever it takes to find Ezra. Like, she cares more about Ezra than becoming a Jedi. I think that's like in her back pocket there.
Yeah.
And you see her like going between being a Mandalorian and a Jedi literally during this episode. I think this almost like solidifies her fate in the future. Ricky Flex, what was your feelings regarding Sabine's choice?
You knew after the first scene that she was going to get too emotional for Ezra, and she was going to do this. You knew that this was going to happen at some point, whether it was going to be in this episode or in a future episode. Right after that first scene with Ahsoka, when Ahsoka says, you got to make the choice, and she didn't really, can't get too emotional. You knew this was going to happen at some point. Again, with the Infinity War references, I was thinking about Wanda and Vision and about, we're not going to kill Vision, But then, same time, it's just like, holy crap, Ahsoka told you 20 minutes ago this was going to happen, and you still couldn't do it. I don't know. For me, it's like it was just like, it was good, as in it makes sense, but I was just like, holy crap, just shoot the goddamn orb and finish this off once and for all. It was so frustrating, but in a good way, because that's good writing,
That's Star Wars inner conflict, you know what I mean? It's just like, are you willing to do what's great for all or great for yourself, for selfish reasons? So, but the more I think about it, the writing is pretty good on this show, because when you think about it, you have Sabine and Ahsoka, you got Jedi Master, right, and student, right, and then you have Baylan Skoll and Shin, and I think those two pairs kind of mirror each other. You have the undisciplined Padawan for each of them, and they're not willing to listen completely and commit fully to what the Jedi way is. I think that also is there. And I wonder if there's going to be even a little bit of jealousy going forward for Shin and Sabine, as Baylan Skoll is taking on this character as kind of one of his next Padawans. What else I want to talk about? I want to talk about the one-on-one with Baylan and Ahsoka. I was thinking about the dialogue, because obviously the choreography not so great with Ray Stevenson, right? He has that strong presence, but he can't move as well as, let's say, Rosario Dawson, right? But he is this older, experienced Jedi. But I was looking for this episode to kind of tell me what is his motivation, right? What is made him go from, right, this person that looked up to the Jedi and kind of turn on them in a way, look to rescue Thrawn and then destroy this new republic. I'm kind of left still empty inside a little bit. I don't understand the motivations. I thought it was kind of like an old trope where he's just like, oh, in order to, you have to be able to start you want to start something new, right? You have to burn down what isn't working, that type of a traditional type of villain
Thanos
approach. I thought we were going to get a little bit something more here. I think they're still holding something back a little bit, but just a little disappointed so far, boys. What do you think?
Yeah, they're not showing the motivation yet. We still don't know.
That was the big moment, right? The one-on-one. That's where you expected to
but
hear it.
It's still the middle of the season, right? They'll come back together for a part 2. I think another duel where we might know a little bit more backstory here. But I think for me, Baylan here, Ray Stevenson, again with the Thanos vibe, saying this is necessary, destroy in order to create. When he said how inevitable, I was like, yep, this is going down. I love his experience that he's showing here with the dialogue, and then he's also Ahsoka earlier in the episode. It's like, you got to know it's for the greater good. Baylan here, it's like, this is for the greater good. The Jedi way is still in him. It's just, a little darker. So he's still showing those, not to the depths of an Anakin or the true dark side, but he's still showing some sort of light here at the end, saying it didn't have to come to this, So, all in all, this was definitely the highlight of the episode for me, besides the ending. Ray Stevenson's Baylan. Great dialogue. I loved him throughout in this, and especially what happens after with Sabine and kind of manipulating her a little bit to get the orb and / map back.
Yeah.
Awesome by Ray Stevenson.
That's old school Star Wars, dude.
Yes.
That's like Darth Sidious, looking at Anakin. That's what I'm like, damn, this is what we've been missing. Back to your roots.
The difference is he's like, you have my word, and his word actually matters because the Jedi's still in him. That's why it's different.
Mm-hmm. And the performance is great. He says it with such conviction, you believe it, and it's that presence. Johnny Sims, any thoughts on that moment with Baylan Skoll?
Yeah, Baylan's on on-screen presence is unbelievable. He's a walking quote machine, and he's a monster of a dude. Like earlier, Doc, you said that you had that kind of samurai duel type vibes, and you weren't, too satisfied with how Balin was moving. I thought it was interesting because it looked like a samurai and Ahsoka was coming up against like a great knight, like almost if like the leader of the King's Guard from Game of Thrones was dropped into the Star Wars universe with the, he's swinging around a big great sword. Like that's how he treats his weapon. So it was interesting to see those two different styles clashing with one another. And I'm going to go back to what I said when I was on here last time. I do think he's very much like a Count Dooku type character where he's not necessarily evil. We don't know his motivations for sure, but it's not like he's like a Vader or Palpatine just seeking out evil. I think he thinks he's doing what is just right. Perhaps in his eyes, there needs to be just some established order at the top to rule the galaxy and keep everything in line, because he saw how the Jedi fell. He saw how the Republic fell and how they let the Sith rise to power literally right under their noses. So he's seen all these things and he's kind of scorned, and this is where he's wound up.
That's a good call. It's like he's not traditional and like Count Dooku is a good shout out. He's not traditional like you see with the pure evil that you sometimes get with Star Wars. 100% agree.
Yeah, he didn't even want to fight Ahsoka. Like he was like reluctant to actually fight her. He's like, it's a shame it has to come to this.
Yes, yeah. He kind of like, he's sympathetic to the Jedi. He likes the Jedi. When he was holding that, I like how you brought out like his fighting style was like member of the King's Guard, and to me, he looked like he was Hank Aaron sometimes swinging that thing, just like he was trying to hit 715 when he's like slashing off Ahsoka. Yeah, that was great. So where else do you want to go? Ricky Flex, I want to do a quick shout out. Your boy Hu Yang. Wow. Droid on droid fights. Dude, we're not used to seeing that. Let's go. K2SO, where he'll get in the mix a little bit, but like metal to metal combat, that's what I'm talking about. We don't get that often.
Hey, let's go. Droid battle, droid fights. Let's go. Like proud of him. Proud of our boy there.
That was great. That was like seeing it's like you're sitting in for the night for a UFC whatever 205, and like this is the 7:00 fight, and it ends up being a banger. Just like before you get to the one-on-one at the end, before you get to like McGregor, that was awesome. And speaking of like Titans, I think we should talk about this thing that I really can't contain anymore. It's this end scene, and we have to talk about Anakin Skywalker. We have to talk about Hayden Christensen coming back. Second series he's shown up in, right, for Disney, and when they have controlled Star Wars. He was in obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi, returning as Darth Vader. Here he gets a moment with Ahsoka in this realm, the world between worlds, and we don't know what happened to Ahsoka. We don't know necessarily if she is alive or dead. But before we keep going with this, I was wondering if I could kind of transfer the world between worlds definition over to you guys, the Rebels aficionados. So Johnny Sims, what do you know about the world between worlds that we saw at the end of the episode?
Yeah, so I have a general understanding of what it is. It actually doesn't come up until like the third or fourth to last episode in Rebels, but it is literally what it's called. It is a world between worlds that exists between time and space. There's not a finite point that you point to and say this is the world between worlds. And it's not even really understood. It works in very mysterious ways. And the first time that we're introduced to it is actually the last time that Ahsoka and Vader interact with one another. They fight, and Vader presumably kills Ahsoka, and then Ezra goes into the world between worlds 2 seasons later, pulls her out before she dies. She didn't actually die during the fight, but he thought that she did. So the last time that Ahsoka and Vader saw each other was right before she went into the world between worlds in the show. And then after that moment, I believe she does some training in there. I'm not sure if she knows how to access it, and we're seeing that now. But yeah.
And so we can assume Anakin's the one who saves her, maybe potentially, right? Maybe when she was falling off that cliff, he pulls her into the world between worlds.
It's possible, certainly possible, because like I said, it's mysterious and no one knows exactly how it works.
And we are so used to multiverse type of projects in the world today. Like, I was just curious, is this like a variant of like an Anakin Skywalker that's in this world?
I don't think so. I think if
Like a Force
anything,
Ghost, right?
yeah, I think it's a Force ghost. And
Okay,
earlier,
but it doesn't look like a Force ghost. But is that because they're in like the realm, the world between worlds is like made by the Force, right? That is like the
right,
Force. Gotcha.
pretty much.
So I mean, I'm gonna keep. If you don't mind, I'm gonna keep battering you with questions
Sure.
because you seem you're very experienced with this. What do you think the odds are that we see Anakin this episode, but maybe we get some more Jedi's from our past in this world between worlds?
It's certainly possible. I think it probably, though it would be cool and be great fan service to see some old Jedi. I think it'd be best to just keep it to Anakin and Ahsoka because Ahsoka was his Padawan and they had so much history together. The last time they saw each other, he literally tried to kill her. So I think it would be cool. And the inner Star Wars, child in me would love to see all sorts of Jedi, but I think we're just gonna see Anakin.
There's just too many possibilities that you could
Yeah.
potentially have. Like, you want to see, like, I kept thinking like, what, because we saw Luke Skywalker in, right, you see him in Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. Like, imagine him seeing Anakin, right? Hayden Christensen Anakin, like that would blow my mind. When I was also thinking, when I read a little bit about the world between worlds, how it can kind of bring Jedi's from different times and bring them into the sector, right? I was thinking about the conversation we had, like, do we need a flashback episode? And if I knew about the world between worlds, I would have never suggested this. I would have never suggested that. This is like arguably better because now it's intriguing because I think we actually have a great cliffhanger where it seems like Anakin is smiling while he's looking at Ahsoka, but you do have the Darth Vader theme kind of like linger in the background here. So Richie Flex, I want to go to you. What do you think this interaction is going to be like when they start the next episode? Are they going to be friend or foe?
I think friend. Obviously, we know the history with Anakin and what happens. So he's now a good guy, even though should he be a Force ghost? Some will say. But end of the day, the Vader theme, I think, is just to say, like, oh, this is Anakin. Yeah, he was Darth Vader. I don't think it's anything antagonistic. I don't. I just think the theme just hits. The Vader theme always hits, and it's just kind of reminding us. I know I might be in the minority there, but I just think when you have the chance to do it and just kind of tease us with that at the end, you got to do it. But I think this is going to be more of a friendly interaction. You can tell by the smile there. And again, Anakin's already turned back. He's fine. So definitely not going to be bad.
What do you think, Sims? Friend or foe?
I think he's going to be a friend, but I will say, and again, I haven't seen this episode yet, but my understanding is that when we're first introduced to the world between worlds, it's actually a trick by Palpatine who lures Ezra into the world between worlds. And then in there, he ends up saving Ahsoka. But I'm not sure if it's revealed what his motives were for that, but just the fact that this was once used as a Sith trick, and now we're seeing Anakin, might raise some questions.
Wow.
Might raise some questions.
So there could be some deceit here, and I will tell you, Johnny Sims, that I don't write this show, but if I was Dave Filoni, how I start the next episode is them facing face to face, Anakin with a lightsaber to his side, and then you have to see what color that lightsaber turns. If it's red when it goes off, you're like, oh, shit's going down. Right? Rematch between Ahsoka and Vader. That would be amazing. A fight that was unfinished, right? From like Rebels. I think that would be an incredible moment too. I think it's kind of a toss-up. Now that you bring up that background, like you talk about with Palpatine with the world between worlds, I'm just like, I think all options are on the table at this point. It's kind of unpredictable, and we kind of want to assume it's going to be, right, this friend, this mentor, Force ghost type of moment that we haven't gotten in recent Star Wars projects. But I want to see more lightsaber battles. I'm a selfish son of a bitch, you know? Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. So whatever is going to happen in this episode has to be epic, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but they're playing this episode in some theaters across the country. Episode 5 is going to be in some movie theaters. So for them to put an episode of TV show into movie theaters, I guess you could say it's because there is a lull in movies that are rolling out. But it's got to be something epic. So we might see a crazy duel in this next episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say this weekend's literally no new movies are coming out this weekend, and if they were gonna put something on the big screen, it would have been any episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi with Darth Vader, particularly the series finale or season finale, I should say. So I think it's more the latter, but I appreciate you thinking that this was going to be epic because I hope it is. That would be great.
I would start crushing Rebels to see it in theaters. I would. Like I would go the Johnny Sims route. Okay, 100%. Other thoughts on the episode? Strengths, flaws. What do you guys have? Anything worth mentioning, Sims?
I mean, I think we've covered a lot. I think it was an awesome episode from top to bottom. I thought the lightsaber fights were very well choreographed and believable. Like, I was worried when we were getting into Sabine versus Shin that it was going to be kind of like Finn versus Kylo Ren, but it really wasn't. Sabine was overmatched, even though she does have some saber experience. It was funny. I kept thinking back to when I was on here last time, and Flicks, you were saying that you thought it was crazy that Ahsoka couldn't just manhandle Marok, and that she was even with him. And then in this episode, she just diced him like he wasn't even there. It goes right through him.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that, so I'm happy someone else did. I also want to bring up here because I think we talked about it, but with the Bail and getting the orb back, the map from Sabine, he didn't take it. She gave it to him. Gave it. He didn't weak hands and he went out and grabbed it. No. She gave it to him. I think that's important. That she is weak. I don't care. I'd never want to see her holding the lightsaber. Like that, you just never do that. I know Johnny Sims, you mentioned Ezra might do it for Sabine. I don't think so if you're a Jedi. Great or good. You would not. So I just wanted to bring that one part up. I never want to see her holding the lightsaber again.
I think the nail in the coffin for her being a Jedi was when Shin called her out on not being able to wield the Force. And she called her powerless. And then Ahsoka is, I think, right, then kills Marok, I think, in that moment. Or I forgot what happens exactly at that time. But yeah, I didn't know it was pronounced Marok. Thank you for that, Johnny Sims. I've been calling him Merrick. I don't know. I sound like a dummy.
To be honest, it might be Merrick.
I thought it was Merrick. I thought it was Merrick.
I never heard someone say it out loud until then.
I thought Shin said it in episode 3.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't even hear it. That's like I didn't have any. I wasn't well versed at all with the character.
Well,
so
I'll say this: before that scene, Doc, they show I made sure I wrote this down. They showed the Mandalorian helmet on the ground.
Yeah.
Right before she does the little trick with not trick, but she doesn't have the Force, and then
cool shot.
Yeah. So that was telling me she's a Mandalorian. She is not a Jedi. That kind of hinted at that scene too. So I think for me, that was she's done being a Jedi. She didn't listen to Ahsoka literally 20 minutes ago saying, don't do that. And then she did it. And literally with the universe on the line, Thrawn will come back if you give this orb away. And she did it. So, and again, only 20 minutes. So I think her days are numbered for being a Jedi. But again, obviously, Johnny Sims, you're watching it now. Rebels, is she considered a general in Rebels? She's high up. I think.
What?
Sabine, she's considered high up, a soldier, and in that show, I think. So she has a lot of fight experience, but she's definitely more of a soldier, Mandalorian than a Jedi.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note too that she doesn't necessarily even want to be a Jedi. She feels like she's almost being shoehorned into that because she had previous experience with the Darksaber. There were some hints that she could maybe have some openness to the Force, and now Ahsoka is kind of trying to train her into becoming something that she really isn't, because she is at her core and always has been a Mandalorian. And in the show, she does act a lot with her emotions. So that's why, having seen it, I do think her decision made it a little more believable. And also, from her perspective, I think she thinks that Ahsoka just died. I think she just thought that Ahsoka just got pushed off a cliff and died. So she's like, okay, I'm down, Ahsoka. I'm surrounded. I got nobody. We got Hera and Zeb off-world somewhere, but I gotta get to Ezra.
That's great lenses used by you, Johnny Sims.
She could have just killed the orb.
So
She could have shot
Yeah,
her.
but then she could.
This is Ricky. He doesn't put
You could have shot the
himself in the
orb, and it's
character's
over.
shoes.
It's
But
over.
then she would
I'm
never
not
find
buying it,
Ezra.
Chris. I'm not
She would
buying
never
it.
find
You shoot
Ezra.
the orb and it's done. There's no map. They don't get Thrawn. There's nothing. You lose Ahsoka. You never see Ezra again. The greater good.
No, but she doesn't do
She
that.
doesn't care
That's
about the
point.
greater good.
But okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's just the character. You know?
Obviously.
You know what I was thinking too is that recent Star Wars writing, what I could see happening is that she said in this episode, right, that like she'll be there for Ahsoka. She hasn't been able to wield the Force. She wields the Force in like the finale or the penultimate episode and saves Ahsoka Tano. I could see that happening at some point just because, I don't know.
Yeah.
It shows that she's actually there for her. I like that point, Johnny Sims, right? She did think she just lost Ahsoka. She has no one with her. That's, I know. I buy it. Okay. Any final thoughts here? All right. Any other future predictions regarding Anakin or other potential characters that we're going to see next episode as we head towards the back half of this season? Anything, Flex?
We haven't even brought up Hera. Just
showing
up.
I had a question. Sorry, Ricky. I meant to ask this. So Hera, is she always just do nothing?
So Hera, her character, she's not really a fighter. She's always like the pilot. She's the coach of the group. She's the mom of the group. She's the one that always comes in to get everyone out of sticky situations. Like we're seeing, she's coming in with backup at the end of episode 4. But she does a lot of the planning. She's not necessarily the boots on the ground type.
Gotcha. So like Sabine is like her angsty teenage daughter.
Right, exactly. And Ezra was the angsty teenage son, pretty much. And then Kanan was the father, and then he ends up passing, spoiler, in the finale.
Gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
Got it. Okay. Ricky Flex, any thoughts on Hera? Sorry I interrupted you. I had that in the back of my mind.
No, she just shows up and, hyperspace, 2 of her pilots go down. We get a Mandalorian cameo here from the Rebel pilot, Carson. We got a little cameo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was like the only thing I had about the episode that was just like, oh, yeah, that happened, but it didn't really matter. The episode was great besides that, really.
Fantastic. One of the best that we've gotten in Disney Star Wars, I think, so far. I want to thank Johnny Sims for joining us, right? He was on call for this one, right? I think Ricky Flex was saying Johnny Sims wants in, and we're like, yes, Let's go. And I have a feeling, Johnny Sims, we're going to need you for next week, too.
I'll see if I can make it happen. I'm a busy guy. No, I'm just kidding. Rick, text me and we'll figure something out.
Yes. Let's see it in theaters. Okay.
Yeah, I'll come down to Connecticut. Yeah.
Yes. Ricky, 70 millimeter, gonna see this episode?
I don't know about that, Jim.
Okay, so that's gonna do it for our episode 4 reactions of Ahsoka. Make sure you guys are staying tuned to the pod because we have some things to go over on this week's trailer roundup. We got the Bike Riders, right? Trailer from Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, upcoming project, debuted at Venice to rave reviews. We're breaking down that trailer, and we're going to talk about some of those movies that came out during Venice and those early reactions. Make sure you're also staying up to date with the latest movie news, not only on the trailer roundup, but also on our socials, on Twitter at The Drive-In Pod, and on Instagram, same handle at The Drive-In Pod. YouTube, if you're watching on there, like this video, do it. Comment on this video, do it. We'll comment back. Subscribe to the channel, okay? Pumping out 3 to 5 videos a week. Make sure you're staying tapped in. Not too late to hop on the train. Okay. And also, wherever you listen to this podcast, if you're taking it in podcast form, Spotify, right? SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get it, make sure you hit that follow button, rate us 5 stars, or leave a review, preferably both. So that's going to do it for episode 270 of The Drive-In. Until next time, we will smell ya.